My exterminator inspected our walls and said, these aren't termite tunnels. Something was trying to get out. I bought the house in October because the price was too good to pass up. 4 bedrooms, original hardwood, massive backyard. The realtor kept saying how motivated the seller was. I didn't ask why. I should have. 3 weeks later, I started hearing scratching inside the walls. Not normal house sounds. Actual scratching, like fingernails on drywall, coming from the bedroom wall at 2 a.m. every night. My wife heard it too. We'd lie there in the dark, listening to something drag itself through the space between the studs. I called an exterminator. Guy named Sullivan showed up the next morning with a camera scope and a toolbox. He drilled a small hole in the bedroom wall where the sound was loudest and fed the camera inside. I watched his face change as he looked at the monitor. His jaw actually went slack. What is it? I asked. Rats? He didn't answer. Just kept moving the camera, his expression darkening. Finally, he pulled the scope out. These aren't termite tunnels. Okay, so what are they? He showed me the footage. The inside of my wall looked like an ant farm. Dozens of narrow channels carved into the drywall and insulation, all converging toward the bedroom. Termites build horizontal tunnels for transport, he said quietly. These are vertical, clawed, and they all lead the same direction. I stared at the screen. What makes tunnels like that? Nothing I've ever seen. He paused. But whatever made these wasn't trying to get in. It was trying to get out. My stomach dropped. Out? Out of what? He pointed at the monitor. Look at the claw marks. They're facing outward, toward your room. Something was trapped inside these walls and spent a long time trying to escape. I thought he was messing with me. Come on. What animal does that? I don't know, but I'm not staying to find out. He started packing his equipment. Wait, you're leaving? I do pest control, not paranormal investigations. You need to call someone else. He was out the door before I could stop him. That night, the scratching was louder, more frantic, and it wasn't just in one spot anymore. I heard it in the bedroom, then the hallway, then the kids' room. My wife grabbed my arm. It's moving. She was right. Whatever was in there was following us. I called a contractor, told him I wanted every wall opened. He quoted me $15,000. I didn't care. They started demo the next day. The first wall they opened was in the master bedroom. The contractor called me over. He was staring at something behind the drywall, his face pale. You need to see this. I walked over and looked inside the wall cavity. Carved into the wooden studs were words, hundreds of them, scratched deep with something sharp. Help me. Let me out. Please. I'm still here. The same phrases repeated over and over, covering every surface inside the wall. What the hell is this? The contractor whispered. I couldn't answer. My throat had closed up. We opened the next wall. More words. More desperate pleas carved into the wood. Then we found the gap. In the wall between the bedroom and the hallway, there was a space roughly 3 feet wide and 6 feet tall. Someone had sealed it from the outside with fresh drywall, but on the inside the edges were shredded. Claw marks everywhere. Sitting at the bottom of that space was a pile of torn insulation, old food wrappers, and a water bottle. And a jacket. Small. Child-sized. My wife started crying. The contractor stepped back. I'm calling the police. They arrived 20 minutes later. Detectives and forensics. They took photos, collected evidence, asked questions I couldn't answer. One detective pulled me aside. How long have you lived here? 3 weeks. You never met the previous owner? No, everything went through the realtor. He nodded. We need to search the entire property. Is there a basement? There was. We almost never went down there because it was unfinished and creepy. The police went down first. I heard shouting, then radio chatter. They found her behind the furnace. A girl, maybe 12, curled up in a sleeping bag. Alive. She'd been living in my walls for 3 weeks, hiding. Terrified. When they brought her up, she wouldn't stop shaking, wouldn't speak, just stared at me with haunted eyes. A detective explained later. The previous owner was her stepfather. He'd kept her locked in that wall space for 2 years, fed her just enough to survive, told everyone she'd run away. When he found out the house was being foreclosed, he panicked, opened the wall and told her to hide in the basement. He never came back. She'd been living off canned goods from the basement and sneaking into the kitchen at night. The scratching we heard wasn't her trying to get out. It was her warning us. She was terrified we'd find her and send her back to him. The police arrested him 3 states away. The girl's in foster care, getting help. We moved out 2 days later, listed the house again. I don't care if we lose money. Some houses aren't haunted by ghosts. They're haunted by what people are capable of doing to each other.